INTERNETISM. How to Create Wealth in the Internet Economy by Ali Al-Saloom and Amir Anzur. Read by Ruth Gallows. Lessons from getting a haircut. If you go for a haircut in Islamabad, Pakistan, it will cost you 80 rupees, $1. Please note all dollar figures are US. A similar barber in Dubai will cost you 25 dirhams, $7. Get the same haircut in Geneva, Switzerland, and it will set you back 40 Swiss francs, $45. Is Jean-Pierre, the Swiss barber, really 45 times better than Imran, the Pakistani barber? Would Jean-Pierre make your hair look 45 times better than Imran? We have had haircuts in different parts of the world and can say the results haven't been much different. Swiss barbers don't make you look 45 times better than Pakistani barbers, or 6 times better than Emirati barbers. The experiences are different, but even that depends more on the individual barbershop than on the city. A high-end barbershop in Pakistan offers a similar experience to a high-end barbershop in Switzerland, but at a fraction of the price. The Swiss barbers are making 45 times more than the Pakistani barbers for the same work and the same time. If anything, the Pakistani barbers have more time for a chat and might even give you a free head massage. Even if we adjust for higher rent, wages and other expenses in Switzerland, the Swiss barbers are making at least 10 times more than the Pakistani barbers while providing the same service. Now you may ask, what does a haircut have to do with creating wealth from the internet? As you read on, you will discover many of the lessons from the barbershop carry over to the digital age. Jean-Pierre was protected in the old economy. Imran, the barber, could not compete for Jean-Pierre's customers. Imran didn't have a Swiss work visa or the capital to rent the shop in Switzerland. Not many Swiss are going to fly to Pakistan to get their hair cut, even if it is 45 times cheaper. But let's say instead of haircutting, the job was video editing, or graphic design, or software programming, or customer support, or math tutoring, or a number of jobs that didn't exist a few decades ago, but are now essential. This change in the economy largely took place just in the last 15 years. The world is only beginning to realize the impact for the next decade. The non-barber Jean-Pierres will face trouble now that their jobs are not location dependent, while the Imrans will have the opportunities. Jean-Pierre can no longer charge his local customers 45 times what Imran charges, unless, of course, he has a trusted brand, strong relationships, a production process unique to his locale, or significantly better service. But the Imrans of the world can now get in the game. The internet means they are no longer restricted by their passport and can serve customers in Switzerland or anywhere else across the globe from their home villages. This means their home countries can avoid the brain drain that plagued them in recent history. Questions of inequality. One question that might have occurred to you is, why are some people rich and others poor? The average American earns over $45,000 per year, for example, while an average Pakistani earns less than $1,000 per year. Why does poverty happen? Why is one person a millionaire and another living without running water? Is it genetics? Is it culture? Why are Africans poor and suffer from famines? Why is China's economy now booming? And what could other countries learn from it? Why is it that 1 out of every $4 spent around the world is by an American? US population 300 million. While the rest of the 6.7 billion share the other 75% of the wealth. We know that you may not expect such deep, difficult questions at the beginning of a book about the internet, but it's important to understand these ideas before we discuss the modern economy. When you truly understand exactly what wealth is, you will see exactly how big the impact of the internet is and will continue to be in many societies and industries. The internet, like the telephone, the automobile, electricity and TV, is a tool that can help us reach our goals faster. We need to first understand what we want to use these tools for before we can use them effectively. Peter Drucker, a management guru of the last century, said, There is nothing so useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. So we need to ensure the internet adds benefit to our lives before we try to use it. Or as Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who has a why can endure any how." The point of this book is to get you to truly understand why, because the why of the internet will give you a chance to create substantial wealth wherever you live or whatever your education level or financial background. Not only that, but it can help end global poverty. Once you understand the why, the how becomes much easier to figure out. If you were to take up golf, the first thing you would do is learn the rules of the game. You would need to know, for instance, that you couldn't throw the ball. You have to use a golf club instead. You need to know that you have to get the ball into the first hole first, and the 18th hole at the end. Once you understand the rules of the game, you can start improving. If creating wealth is the game you want to play, first you have to understand the game. What exactly is wealth? How can we make more money? Why are some people poor while others are rich? In summary, how can we create more wealth for ourselves and maybe even help our neighbors to create more wealth? As entrepreneurs, we have spent many years traveling to different parts of the world where we have witnessed great wealth, but great poverty too. So the question of inequality has bugged us for a while. And if you start thinking about a problem long enough, you start to come up with solutions. We have spent tens of thousands of hours figuring out how to create wealth online. We have worked with successful global companies such as Google, Oracle, Samsung, Microsoft and Intel. Gulf-based governments such as those in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and international associations such as the World Trade Organization to understand the bigger picture of wealth creation. We have worked with many millionaires and billionaires, but also spent time with beggars on the streets of Delhi and the homeless people in London. Between the two of us, we've started companies in the US, the UK, the UAE, Kenya and Pakistan. We were educated in the US, the UK, Canada, Belgium, Pakistan, Switzerland and the UAE. The book is meant to give a global perspective on wealth, rather than one specific to any country. We've invested time learning how to create wealth, knowing that someday we would go out and teach others. This book is an important part of our teaching. The simple conclusions you read in a few hours took us thousands of hours to figure out. We have distilled the lessons we learned from hundreds of books and many fine teachers, only some of whom we are able to mention. Whether you are an Ethiopian or a German, the internet gives you the chance to create wealth for yourself. But this book isn't about how to get rich quick. If you're looking for a quick score, buy a raffle ticket and hope for the best. This is more about slowly building riches. The principles discussed in this book will prepare you to win in the internet economy in the next decade. This could mean finding a life partner, educating your children, creating a living, or advancing a cause. The only way to truly create wealth, though, is to take action. Knowledge, like money, doesn't mean anything in itself. You must use it for something. The funny thing about humans is that they will do more for others than they will do for themselves. If you tell parents to quit smoking because they are harming themselves, the response might be lukewarm. But if you tell them that they're harming their child, they're more likely to listen. Read this book and take action for others. The wealth you create and the lessons you pass on will only appreciate in value. Is wealth possible through the web? The founders of Facebook are the youngest self-made billionaires in history. In under a decade, Facebook is valued at a similar level as General Motors and McDonald's, who have hundreds and thousands of employees and took decades to reach the same level of success. The founders of Google, eBay, and Amazon have all also become billionaires in the past decade. A website you may not have heard of, diapers.com, sells 500 million worth of diapers through the web every year. Zappos.com sells over 1 billion worth of shoes through the internet every year. Millions of people are being hired through Odesk.com and Elance.com. These sites make it possible for businesses in the richer areas of the world, e.g. North America and Europe, to hire people directly from poorer parts, e.g. the Philippines, India, Kenya and Pakistan, etc. no visa issues, no minimum wage, minimal hiring and firing costs, no flight costs, zero telecommunications costs. Clickbank.com has paid out over $2 billion in sales commissions for digital information products. Yet it's probably another website you haven't heard of. Singer Justin Bieber can thank YouTube for launching his career and becoming a 15-year-old millionaire. And let's not forget Matt Wadsworth, a lute player who created wealth through online marketing. He just happens to be blind. The internet enabled us to live in the global villages of Dubai and Abu Dhabi, yet stay competitive in the global economy. We are not based in Silicon Valley, and our words are not aimed at California insiders who invested millions of their own dollars and realized the web's potential a good decade before the rest of the world. This book is for the rest of the world. A detailed analysis of France's economy over the past few years found that the internet destroyed 500,000 jobs. At the same time, though, 1.2 million web-based jobs were created, which is 2.4 jobs for every one destroyed. The point is, you can see the internet as a threat or an opportunity. We hope by the end of this book you will see the bright side of the digital economy, which, even if it doesn't benefit you directly, will give your children a better future. So, although a Jean-Pierre could see his job disappear, as an Imran can do it much cheaper and or better, it also allows Jean-Pierre now to move on to a different job or find a different way to generate wealth for himself. The basic economics of supply and demand are not changing. The internet can significantly increase supply and demand. The place you were born in or your passport is no longer going to determine the wealth you create for yourself, as the internet enables more people to compete. A Jean-Pierre might have had a better education than Imran in the past, but this is no longer the case. Anyone with computer access can visit websites such as khanacademy.org, YouTube, Wikipedia, Google, and webpreneuracademy.com. Before the Industrial Revolution, the normal thing to do was to go into a family business. If your father was a shoemaker, chances are that you would become a shoemaker. With the advent of machine-based production, the more respected thing to do was to work in a large corporation or to be employed by the government. Smaller, more creative companies will flourish in the next decade as governments and large corporations begin to cut employees. Larger organizations may make the same revenue, but they won't need as many people. Small is becoming the new big. Your parents did not make a living through the web. Chances are they were not entrepreneurs either. This might make it difficult for you to envision a life working from home, making a living off a virtual world. You are used to seeing people go to work 5 days a week, wearing a suit, going home at 6 p.m., collecting a paycheck at the end of the month. If your parents stopped going to work, they stopped getting paid. If you want to become a webpreneur, you will need to understand how the new economy works. Your parents and teachers might not be the best source of knowledge about internet careers. Go out into your community and meet a real-life webpreneur. Go to seminars, buy courses or books online. Experiment. Only then will you truly believe that starting a business is possible and convince yourself to take further action. The world is full of skeptics, so chances are if you want to go for something a little unusual, people will laugh at you. Look around and see if those people are living the life you want in the future. Maybe you are surrounded by people who work in office cubicles all day, every day, or by people who haven't had much financial success. If you have bigger plans that can help change the world, you might have to break away from these people. The whole industry is so new, you need to do your own discovery. If you're out of school, you need to realize that in the knowledge economy, you will be an eternal student. In order to make a living, you will need to continually invest in your learning. The end of studying is not the day you receive your certificate. If you're in school, the information in this book is not yet taught in your curriculum. It will open your mind to a set of careers your teachers probably didn't know existed. The internet gives the learner more power. Rather than having a teacher dictate learning terms, you can choose what you want to study, where you want to study, and when you want to study. Heck, you can even choose your teacher. And if you are a teacher, this book will help you cope with the constant change of this era, while preparing the next generation to succeed. How to travel through time. In the movie Back to the Future, Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox, is able to travel to the past and the future in a time machine. The ability to travel through time brings many benefits. For instance, the character of Biff takes a current sports book into the past and bets on a sports game. He creates a lot of wealth for himself as he already knows which team will win. You can also travel through time. For instance, visit Abu Dhabi and you can smoke indoors in many restaurants. Ask Emiratis what they think about the impending smoking ban in 2012, and they might say, "That will never happen. Arabs love to smoke too much." The Irish said the same thing in 1999. They also thought a ban would never happen in Ireland. The Irish love smoking as much as the Arabs do. Dublin instituted a smoking ban in 2004. London and Paris followed suit, and in 2010, smoking was banned in Dubai, just up the road from Abu Dhabi. The smoking ban started in Beverly Hills, California in 1987. If you want to see Abu Dhabi's future, at least when it comes to smoking indoors, you can visit California. And if you're a Californian and you want to see what the past was like, visit a restaurant in Abu Dhabi. Knowing the future is beneficial for entrepreneurs. In the UK, for instance, the smoking ban meant restaurants could no longer count on fresh cigarette smoke to mask stale carpets or other odours. Dublin-based business people could take advantage of the looming demand for fragrances that would be required in London, and Paris for that matter. They could, in essence, predict the future. We can predict the impact of the fast food industry on many Arab countries. In America, McDonald's, Burger King, Coca-Cola, and similar fast food brands have been popular for decades. As a result, America is one of the most obese countries in the world. Over 30% of its population is overweight. As fast food franchises spread to the rest of the world, we can take steps to ensure our populations do not develop these health problems. We can learn from the past about junk food. We can also see how other innovations and ideas diffuse throughout society. Electricity, the telephone, the printing press, TV, radio, and airplanes all spread across the world at different speeds. These innovations impacted each society differently, moving jobs from one industry to another and making money for those who were prepared for the change. You might be living in a place where the internet is not a big part of your life, yet. Just as electricity and mobile phones spread, and continue to spread across the world, so will the internet. Perhaps you live in a place where you still book airline tickets through a travel agent. In the US, most people book their own airline tickets online. There are people who benefit from any innovation, and others who lose out. You too will lose out, unless you adapt. The former presidents of Egypt, Hosni Mubarak, and Tunisia, Zain el-Abidine Ben Ali, could have seen the impact of the internet on politics. In February 2008, John McCain, the American presidential candidate, raised $11 million for his political campaign using traditional fundraising methods. In the same month, Barack Obama went to zero fundraisers and raised $55 million primarily through the internet. Obama took advantage of the web, not only to help him raise money, but also to successfully direct his campaign volunteers and followers, and ultimately to get elected. Many Arab leaders underestimated the web's power and were surprised when their people organized and overthrew them. The internet will continue to have a huge impact on governments, as it gives people a way to connect and organize like never before. You can take advantage of the internet no matter where you are. Unlike the smoking ban, in which you suffered if it hadn't come to your part of the world yet, if you're based in a developing country, such as Sudan, and don't have many internet users in your community, you can still market to foreign customers. You do not have to emigrate to a major city to derive your income from there. Ideas don't spread around the globe instantly, and webpreneurs are taking advantage of this lag, which is called arbitrage. The website Groupon.com, for example, offers its subscribers high discounts in order to get volume sales for its business partners. A $100 treatment at a beauty salon, for example, might sell for $50 on Groupon. The salon would get $25 from the sale, and Groupon would get the other $25. The consumer would save $50, even though the salon gets only a quarter of the original price. It benefits by attracting more traffic. It can then turn visitors into repeat customers. Groupon is a hit in the US and was recently valued at over $6 billion. Groupon, however, did not quickly enter the Middle East, and local entrepreneurs seized the market. Companies such as Coburn.com, UAE, Groupin.pk, Pakistan, and Deals.Locality.co.ke, Kenya, used similar business models and took a big chunk of the local market before Groupon arrived a few years later. Similarly, eBay didn't have the marketing reach for the UAE, so webpreneurs launched Souk.com to bring a similar business model to this part of the world. These webpreneurs knew eBay had been successful in America and saw an opportunity to bring the future to their country. Amazon.com, the largest seller of books in the US, sells more books for its electronic reader than it sells regular books. If you're in the paper or printing business, you want to assess how long it might be until the future arrives in your part of the world. Some technologies spread globally within a few years. Facebook, mobile phones, while others can take longer. The car, air travel. Perhaps in your part of the world, at some stage, digital books will become more popular than paper books too. This book will help you see the future, but the past is also important. You can learn how to stand on the shoulder of giants, that is, learn from the industry's pioneers. Skeptics in the Middle East, for example, say, "But people here don't trust the web enough to use their credit cards online." Amazon.com overcame the objection in the 1990s. It is now a multi-billion-dollar business. Some solutions will have to be localized. Online credit card use is not as widespread in the Gulf. Emiratis, for example, still like to use couriers such as Aramex and purchase using cash on delivery. But people around the world are not that different from each other. You will see young people using the same mobile phone no matter where they live. This generation has a greater affinity for the world than the older generation. A teenager in Karachi can watch Justin Bieber on YouTube just like a teenager in New York. A few decades ago, pop stars would have been segmented. TV stations in Pakistan, say, would show only local TV stars. Predicting the future will help you make career choices. If you knew that TV was coming to your part of the world, for instance, you might start a production company, an advertising company, or a TV repair shop. You might choose to study mass communication in university. You have to use your own trial and error to see what trends catch on in your part of the world. Will the Groupon or eBay business models work where you are? You will find businesses often fail not because of the idea, but because they were not marketed effectively. People laughed when somebody came up with the idea to sell bottled water. Now it is as popular in the UAE as it is in the US. The world we live in now allows us to follow what is happening in other parts of the world as if we were actually living there. For instance, someone in Angola can chat with someone in California, watch Californian TV, or take an online course from a Californian university. You might be reading about technology trends in a California newspaper and see, for instance, that Twitter is becoming extremely popular. But when you do your own survey of the Angolan market, you realize tweeting isn't a big thing. Be careful not to base your business around a trend that hasn't made it to your area yet. You want to learn from the world, but be a simple step ahead of your local market. We can already tell you some good news from the future. Your age, qualifications, and nationality won't limit you as much.
It used to be that if you didn't have the right degree, you couldn't join the right company and you wouldn't get the right salary. In the internet economy, you can shortcut your way to a profession instead of having a corporation dictate your career path. You can move at your own pace rather than society dictating your speed. This implies, of course, that it's your responsibility to take control of your education. Being the only kid on the block with a PlayStation begins to get boring pretty quickly. You want your friends to have one too. It makes gaming more interesting. Owning the only fax machine in the world is useless. The more people who buy a fax machine, the more useful it becomes. Driving also improved when more people started buying automobiles. The more cars on the road, the better the roads became. More gas stations opened and car companies invested more in research and development and offered more features. Even as things improve, the price of cars came down. In the same way, if more of us are on the web, the better it gets for all of us. Governments start to make more services available online. More companies offer their products online. Education levels improve faster the more the students use the web to learn. YouTube and Wikipedia get more people to contribute. You can make the case that the internet helps reduce poverty and makes the world safer. If our neighbors have something productive to do, they are less likely to steal from you. You might be the perfect driver, but if everybody else on the road is a bad driver, you still suffer the consequences and get into accidents. This is why you want as many people as possible passing driving tests. If everyone is at a standard level of competence, we all feel safe on the road. We should encourage everyone to achieve a basic level of familiarity with the web, so we all might benefit. Moving up the innovation curve. If you've studied marketing, you may have seen the innovation curve. In essence, any innovation usually goes through 5 stages. Innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, laggards. Innovators buy new products as soon as they come out. They read all the technology magazines and wait in line for the newest gizmo or gadget. Some of these technologies take off while others fail at early stages. The Betamax video cassette recorder, for instance, came out in the 1980s, the same time as VHS was launched. Many innovators thought Betamax was superior, but VHS prevailed. A similar competition is going on right now between DVDs, which replaced VCRs, and Blu-ray discs, which is the newer technology. In the mid-1990s, innovators started using the web. By 2012, over 2 billion people were online, 800 million of whom use Facebook. The Internet is now in the late majority stage, especially in the US, where over 78% of the population access the web. The number of people who actually buy online is a lot lower, though this too depends on where you live. Americans, for example, spend the most money online, just as they spend the most at bricks and mortar stores. Finally, there are a few people, right now less than 1% of the 2 billion users, who make an income from the web. But many people indirectly rely on the web to help them do business. They just don't realize it until their email goes down. Most people use the web to check email, e.g. Hotmail, Yahoo, Gmail, use a social network, Facebook, search, Google, check their bank account, watch videos, YouTube, read news, for example, bbc.co.uk and cnn.com. That is, people are primarily consuming content or helping someone else make money. Fewer people sell their products and services through the web. This book will help you, if you take action, to become part of that 1%. Our goal is to encourage people to move to the right side of the innovation curve. If you're among the few who are not using the internet yet, we encourage you to start. And if you are, we encourage you to become a webpreneur. The statistics on how the internet is growing around the world are illuminating. Over 30% of the world now has access to the internet. America has 78% penetration, while Africa lags behind with 11% penetration. but the emerging continent has the highest growth rate, 2,500% in the past decade. And the 1 in 10 Africans who is connected is most likely to have a disposable income. The penetration of TV, electricity and telephones was also much higher in the US, and eventually spread to laggards such as Africa. This book is not a critical look at Africa, as we explained earlier. Just because there is an innovation does not mean people should use it. America has one of the highest penetrations of guns in the world. That doesn't mean more guns are good for your country too. Mobile phone penetration is still much higher than that of the Internet, especially in the emerging world. And through cell phones, the Internet will spread even faster. Access to the Internet used to be expensive, as companies had to dig holes and lay cables to order to connect homes through telephone lines. The cellular network that connects mobile phones are much cheaper, as the signal is transmitted through the air. The same technology can now be used to provide Internet service. Better roads, railways, and communication infrastructure in the past century have helped the US and Europe create a lot of wealth for its citizens. As the world goes digital, emerging countries have a great opportunity to leapfrog others if they invest in high-speed Internet connections. Looking at the growth numbers, it's not hard to convince you that the Internet is here to stay. It's just a matter of whether you will help bring the future to your part of the world, or wait for someone else to do it.
A brief history of money. Most people want to be rich, but what exactly is money? In this chapter, we'll go back to the basics of wealth creation. Remember, in order to win any game, you need to understand the rules. If the game you want to play is who has the highest number in his or her bank account, you should understand how to achieve that number. Let's assume that wealth means how much money you have. The more money you have, the richer you are. We know money does not buy you happiness, but we're sure you'd rather be rich and unhappy than poor and unhappy. From the gift to the virtual economy. A few thousand years ago, humans lived in a gift economy. We lived in small communities and would not expect anything in return if we performed a task or gave something to someone. If you caught a fish, you would give it to your friend without expecting anything in return. This is similar to what you might still have with your immediate family. If you make your brother a meal, you do not expect him to make one in return. As communities began to grow, more people became strangers who were less trusted. The gift economy gave way to bartering. Now, if you had a spare fish, you could exchange them for a farmer's spare carrots. Eventually, this too became a hassle. If you had a spare fish and needed shoes, but the shoemaker didn't need fish, you would have to find a third party who had something the shoemaker needed. Complicated, right? That's why commodity money was introduced. Now you could trade your fish for coins, which you could spend on whatever you wanted. When you went to buy shoes, you would hand the shoemaker a gold coin, which he could spend on whatever he wanted. Commodity money was usually gold, silver, copper, or barley. That is, it had value in and of itself. If you imagine a large trade overseas, you can probably see the problem with commodity money. Who wants to haul a ship full of gold across water? This led to the idea of representative money. Representative money is the currency you are used to. The dollar, the euro, the rupee, the dirham, etc. The actual coins or banknotes are not really worth what they represent. A $100 bill is not worth $100. We as a society have agreed that the note that says $100 can be used to buy other products and services that represent $100. In the past few decades, we have even moved on to virtual money. Now if you want to buy something, you give the shop your credit card, which tells your bank to subtract the number from your bank account and add a number to the seller's bank account. When you do an online bank transfer, the same thing happens. Numbers are exchanged in databases, but nothing physical moves. You can say you're a millionaire, but it's just a number in a database. Wealth is important, but too often we let the number cause us stress. It works in other ways too. If you feel financially strapped, remember all you have to do is figure out how to make that number positive and as large as possible. At the end of the day, the number still represents value. The more fish you can catch and sell, the higher the number.